Hi guys, welcome. Today we'll be learning how to make this trendy bubu gown with Ankara patches and side pockets. So for this style, the back has a deep neckline and ropes which you can use to tie it on. So if you're interested in knowing how I made this stunning gown, you want to keep watching. So this gown also have a side slit, and if you're yet to subscribe to the channel, do well to subscribe and give this video a thumbs up, and let's jump right into this tutorial. To start off, you'll be needing any fabric of your choice, 3 yards. For mine, I have this cotton stripe fabric and I have scrap Ankara fabric. So I had about 8 pieces of this. You can use as much as you want, okay, depending on the type of outcome you want. And I have my gum stay, I have my bias which I'll be using to pipe my piece, and then I have this circle pattern which I just went ahead to cut it out. So note that you can make yours smaller or you can make it bigger or you can use a totally different shape for yours. Now what I'm going to do is to take my pattern, place on my various fabrics and cut out. I'll be adding 1/2 inch around this while I'm cutting it out, and go ahead and iron my paper stay to them and just keep it aside. Okay, now for the main piece, that is the gown, we'll start off by folding our fabric into 4. I've gone ahead to fold that. Remember I said I have 3 yards of this, so I folded this because I'll be cutting the front and back together. Now I'm ruling a starting line. This is where our measurements are going to start from, and this will also serve as the shoulder line. So I've gone ahead to rule that line. Now on that line, I'm going to take half of my shoulder measurement. I'll mark it down, and from that point, I'm going to mark my sleeve length. So for this sleeve, I want to add like a turn-up effect. So I'm going to stop my sleeve at a certain point and then just mark it down. Then I'll later go on to cut the piece for the turn-up effect. So for that, I just marked, initially I marked 12.5 inches, but I decided to use 15.5 inches instead. Now I'm going ahead to mark a neck width of 3.5 inches, and then from this point, that's the point of the sleeve ending, I came down by 1 inch for the shoulder slope and I'll connect it to that. Remember I said I marked 3.5 inches for my neck width, but I went on later to change that. Now for the armhole depth, that's for the opening of your sleeve, you want to measure how deep you want it to be. For mine, I used 10 inches. Just from that 1 inch point, I came down and I'm extending a line from that point to meet the 10 inches point which I marked, and I'll just rule a line inwards like so, where I can place my horizontal measurement. So for this, we're going to have the neckline for the front and the back. So the back is deeper than the front. For the front, I'm using 6 inches for the depth, and our neckline is going to be a V neckline. Okay, it's deep, it's a deep neckline. So this was where I decided to use 3 inches for my neck width instead of 3.5. Since my neck depth is quite deep, my neck width does not need to be deep. Okay, I hope you understand that. So I just marked 6 inches, and then for the back neckline, you can go as low as you want. So before that, we'll go ahead and connect the neckline together. This is for our front piece. Now for the back, going from the shoulder, I'm going to place 11 inches for mine. You can go as deep as you want. Okay, from the intro video, you'll notice that the neckline for the back is quite deep. So if you want to use deeper, you can do that, and if you don't want it to be as deep, you can also stop it wherever you want. So now we have the neck depth for both the front and the back. Now on this line here, I'll go ahead and place quarter of my round bust, that is the round bust divided by 4 plus an extra inches. So at this point, you can add 5 inches, you can add 6 inches. Okay, but I added 5 inches, so it's going to depend on how wide you want it to be. So I added 5 inches, but I used 6 inches at the end. Okay, now you're going to take this measurement you have here down to your full length. So the fabric I have is 60 inches by length. I'm taking this down to that full length. Okay, if you want yours to be short, you can do that. Stop it wherever you want. If you want it to be longer, it totally depends on what you want. So I just went ahead to measure the full length from the shoulder. You see where I'm placing my tape to get my full length measurement. I'm just adjusting my camera so that you see where this is going to. It's going to get down to the full length. Like I'm exhausting the fabric I have here, the length of the fabric. So I'm going to take that measurement down to the full length. Measure exactly what you have around the bust area at that point. And you can see I'm taking it upwards to ensure that by the time I connect this, I have my measurements placed properly. So it was at this point I decided to extend it by 1 inch instead to make it a bit bigger. So you can see that I adjusted my line instead of using the first point which I marked. I decided to add 1 inch to that to expand that. Now around the sleeve area, around the armhole curve area, we're not going to leave it like this. From this point, you go out by 1 inch and just curve it. So this will help for us to avoid folds around that part because this is a cut together sleeve. This is one thing you must do on your fabric. Okay, you must do this while cutting so that the armhole area sits properly down. Now the next thing I want to mark is the pocket. The pocket is a cut together pocket. That's why I have my fold this much. Okay, so I just marked my waist, that's the shoulder to the half length, and I came down by 1 inch. The next thing I'm going to do is to mark my pocket opening. I'm using 6.5 inches for the pocket opening, and then I'll just go in with my free hand to just draw out my pockets. Okay, so this is what I had, and I was thinking, okay, this looks small, and I decided to make adjustments on this. So you can make it as big as you want. You can create a shape, any shape that you want, but that is what I want. You can see what I have there. So now that I have this down, I'll cut. I'm going to start by cutting the front neckline around the shoulders. I'm going to add 1/2 inch for my joining allowance, and I'll cut out the border at the ends and just cut out the sides like what I have right there. So I advise you make your pockets bigger. Okay, mine wasn't as deep as I would have loved it to be because I actually love big pockets. So now I've taken out I'm going to take out the inside one that will serve as my front. Ensure to mark the wrong side from the right side, okay? So you're not mistaken when you start stitching down. Now I'm going ahead to fold my fabric back. So this is the back. What we want to do is to cut out the neckline so that we can start stitching our piece together. Okay, so the back neckline is deeper. If you want to use like a smaller neckline, like a the normal necklines, you can do that for your outfit. Okay, so I'm just cutting this out. All right, so this is what I have for the back piece. Now what we want to do is to cut facings for our piece, because we need to cut facings for the for the back part. We also need to cut facing for the front part. So I'm going to use like piece of my fabrics to create facings. Go ahead and cut them out. You can see how I'm placing my fabric. I'm placing it on fold. You need to place it on fold, considering the fact that your piece, that's the piece for the cloth, is actually closed. Okay, we're not adding any zipper. So see how I'm placing this down. Ensure that the center areas are aligning. Please, if there is a need, work with your pins. Okay, don't say, oh, I'm good at this. Work with your pins so that it doesn't move. Go ahead and trace out the necklines. Also trace out the shoulder. Then I'll take off the back part and just create this curve. So just see, I'm using my free hand to do this. I'm just creating a curve. So this is for those that don't know how to cut facings for their piece. Okay, on this channel we always use a facing. That's if we're not lining our piece, we're always using a facing. So I'm going ahead to cut out the facing for the front part. Okay, this is not as deep as the back, So I just go ahead to cut just exactly the same thing we did for the back. Go ahead and cut it out. So now we're going to start stitching, turning the neckline. That's what we're going to start from. So I'm starting with the front. You want to lay your piece right side, okay, right side of your piece to the right side of your facing, and go ahead and stitch along the necklines. Okay, so you can see that I just pin that down to keep it in place. Now for the ropes we have at the back, I have this piece of fabric. Okay, I just want 3 inches. I just want 3 inches for this fabric. So I'm going ahead to cut out this piece. It's actually folded into two. You can make it as long as you want. Okay, mine was actually quite long, and I think I liked it that way. So I'm just going to adjust the sides so that it's exactly the inches I want it to be. Like I said, you can make it as long as you want. Now we're going to go ahead and fold this. So this is like creating a belt. We're going to fold it this way and then stitch it, close one end and leave one end open. So this is what I have for mine. I went ahead to just create like a shape for the other part. Now we're going to bring in our back piece. We have our facing at the back. You can see that pinned. Now we're going to insert these ropes. So because we are yet to join the shoulders, you need to measure 1 inch away from your shoulder area before placing your rope in there. Okay, so place the open part of the rope, the mouth area where you didn't cover. That's where you're going to place inside. Tuck it in between your facing and your back piece, and use your pins to hold it down. Okay, hold it down with your pins. Repeat the same process at the other side. Come down by 1 inch or so and place your facing in between your main piece and your, no, not your facing, you're not placing your facing. Okay, place your rope in between your facing and your main piece of fabric and use your pins to hold them down. So remember to come down by 1 inch. You can either come down by half inch, 1 inch to do that. So place them down. Now go ahead and just pin this at various points so that it's easier for me to, just go to my machine and run my stitch around those areas. So now on the other side, that's the rough side, you can either just fold it, okay, this edge, fold it inside, okay, but I like using a bias to just run around that edge, which is what I'm going to do for mine. So this is what it looks like after I finish. This is the back. I used my hemming gum to just iron it down. You can still see the watermark on my piece, and this is what it looks like. So pretty, right? It looks nice, and I ensure to press this very well so that it stays in place. Now this is what the front looks like. Okay, this our rope, you can see it's sitting very well. It's looking nice already, and you can see the distance we have at the shoulder area where we go ahead to stitch our shoulders together. So now we'll keep this aside and bring in the front piece for us to start doing the major work. Okay, for the front, I've also turned the neckline, use my hemming gun to iron it down. This is what it looks like. So now the next thing we want to do is to bring in the patches. So this is what I have. I've cut them off. I said I have about 8 pieces of this. I've cut them round. I added half inch. I ironed my interfacing, that is the paper stay to it, to give it a bit of weight. Now what we want to do is to use our bias to pipe around this to give it a neat look. So I'll take you to the machine and I'll show you how to do that. Now we are here. What we're going to do is to bring in so you're going to bring in your bias. So this is the bias, and you want to, if you notice on the bias, you have it folded like double and then folded again. So you want to follow through that pattern like so. See how I'm placing this? You're going to tuck the mouth of your piece in between your bias, and then you match, you just stitch it. So you want to stitch this carefully, do not be in a hurry so that you can stitch it neatly. You place it down and then just go in and stitch. Just see how I'm stitching this, stitch it bit by bit. I've seen videos where people actually overlock the edges, but I don't know, I don't think that doesn't look nice to me. But if you want to do that, you can do that also. Okay, or if you have any other means of piping the edge, of making your edge look neat, you can also fold it. I think you can actually fold around the edges of your fabric, or you can just do this method which I'm doing. So just go ahead and fold this carefully and make sure that you're tucking every part of your piece, tucking it properly inside, okay, especially around the front area which will be seen outside. Okay, that's the outside area, the good face. Make sure that it is well stitched, okay, and ensure to use a matching fabric, a matching thread to whatever color bias you are using for your piece. Okay, sometimes it's funny when I see different threads and different colors, so ensure to do this properly. So this is me finishing this up carefully. I'm going to show you what it looks like after I finish. So this is what mine looks like. You can see how nice and neat it looks. So following this pattern, I'll go ahead and do the same thing for the others. So this is what I have. I have all of them here placed down looking nice. Like I said, I have 8 of them. Now you want to bring in your piece, that's the front piece, so that you can place down the patches properly. You need to place down the patches how you want them to appear on your piece. So you need your pins. That's not like it doesn't need to be questioned. So you're going to place this however you choose to. So I'm just placing this down, starting off with this piece. I think I actually like this fabric a lot, so I'm placing it at the top, and then after that I'm going to place the others. So you notice that I'm placing it's going towards the left side of my piece, right? It's going towards the left side. You can place it at the center. Like I said, you can absolutely place this however you deem fit. Just take your time and place this properly on your piece, okay? So after placing, this is what I have. And make sure you tuck in the rough edge where your bias are meeting. Make sure you tuck that in while you're placing it down. So now the next thing I want to do is to take this to my machine to stitch it down so it stays in place. Now while stitching on your machine, I'm also using the same thread I used to turn my bias. Okay, the thread I used, that's the black thread I used initially. I'm using the same color of thread. Now what I'm going to do is to stitch following the lines. Okay, that's the part where I piped it. What I call that piping, where I have my bias. I'm going to just follow those lines so that my thread is going to just align with the bias. It's not so visible. I'm going to just follow through with that, stitch it down carefully, follow through and stitch it all through this piece. So you're going to stitch carefully, and the way to know that, to know if you've stitched a piece, is actually to check from the inside. You'll notice that some parts are not properly stitched. Okay, so like I said, ensure to just take this carefully, stitch it, take your time, and you're going to get the hang of it and stitch it down. After stitching, this is what I have. This is what it looks like. I've stitched it down. I've taken out my pins and it stays properly. Okay, so if I turn this to the other side, you're going to see how it looks. So this is what it looks like. This is what I was saying earlier. You can see that the threads, they just follow a circle going that way. That's why I said from the inside, you will know which one you're yet to stitch down. So this is what I have for my piece. Next thing I'm going to do is to arrange. Sorry, I'm going to arrange this properly. Okay, and I'll bring in the back piece, align them right side to right side, and take this to the machine and run a stitch around the shoulders by 1/2 inch. Now I've done that. Now for the turn up effect, I'm gonna head to cut out a fabric. On fold, I have about 2.5 inches. I actually want this to be 2 inches by the time I finish stitching. So I'm going to place this way. It is folded and ironed, okay? And I'll go ahead and stitch by 1/2 inch together with my sleeves. So I've done that, and this is what it looks like. Now we're going to move over to stitching the sides of our dress. We want to align them properly. So pin them down at the point where you know that your fabric is going to move. You want to place them well. Just go ahead and pin your piece down. So you can see I'm pinning it around the armhole area, around my pocket areas. So at this point, if you pin to the full length, pin on both sides to the full length, and you made mistakes while cutting, you will notice that. So go ahead and stitch by 1 inch, and when you get to the pocket, stitch by 1/2 inch and 1 inch to the end. So initially I stitched this to the end, fully to the end. Okay, so this is what it looks like. This is the pocket, and you can see the armhole area. It's not squeezing. I'm yet to iron this. This is the reason why you need to take note of the curve while we're cutting. So you can see that I stitched this to the end. I also went ahead to hem, but I went later to just open up that end because I didn't think that was nice. It gave a tight fit around the leg area, so I just created that slit. And by the time you tie this, it's going to look so nice. So by the time I finish ironing this, I'm going to show you the final look on my manic. So this is what it looks like. It's quite easy to make. If you follow through the steps, you're going to get this correctly. So this brings us to the end of the video. Let me know if you found this video interesting in the comments. If you're yet to subscribe to the channel, please do well to subscribe. If you've not liked this video, do well to like it. Okay, give this video a thumbs up, and I will see you in the next one. And don't forget, this is Master's Thread. Bye.